morning. I'm Reverend Kathy. Welcome to Unity North Spiritual Center in Coon Rapids, Minnesota. Whether you're in person or virtual, we're glad you're here today. And we are part of a greater worldwide unity movement. We are the publishers of the Daily Word magazine, and we've been holding 132 years of prayer vigil through Silent Unity, the prayer ministry of the Unity movement. So prayer is the heart and soul of unity. And our prayer chaplain today is Susan Marie Lawler. And if you'd wave, Susan Marie, there you are. And she'll be available after service if you would like to call her for prayer needs, or just to join in prayer anyway, whether you have a serious need or not. And her phone number will be shown at announcements or in the chat. Also, before I introduce our participants today, I just want to say that I have a little story to share. And my friend Rebecca is here online. You can see her. Rebecca, will you wave? I call her Becky. I've called her Becky for years. Becky and I have been friends for 46 years. We met when I was pregnant with my oldest son. And we've lived in some different states at different times. But it turns out she's right now in Fort Worth, Texas. And her son moved her there after she lost her partner. And she's been living in that area. But it was during COVID, so she didn't have a chance to meet people. And her son and his wife are now moving to Vermont. And he's signed her up for some senior housing there, but it takes a couple of years. So he contacted me, and or she did, he checked in with both of us to see if maybe he could move her here for about a year while she's waiting for housing there. And so we said, fabulous, that'd be great to hang out with a friend here. So it turns out he started a search for an apartment here for her. And he searched the whole area, Anoka, Coon Rapids, Blaine, and got his name on some lists while he was at it. And one of the lists being the complex I'm in that has a number of buildings. And it took 3 weeks, and he was signing the papers for a particular apartment when the one I'm in called him. And they had one place in the whole hundreds of apartments, and turns out to be right across the hall from me. Isn't that unbelievable? So on Friday, she'll be moving here. So this is our first virtual attendee moving to Minnesota. So I thought that was great. We just had to welcome her here. So we get to welcome her in person. All right. So today we have Chris Taliano as our producer. Happy to have you here, Chris. And we have Wendy as our worship assistant. And we have a new musician with us today. His name is Braden Canfield, and he's a friend of Claire Vandekramert, one of our regulars. And she referred him, and he sent his bio, and here's what it says. He's a guy who plays guitar, sings, and occasionally writes a tune or two. He's the proud grandfather of 4, father of 3, and husband of 1, in reverse order. And during the day, he works for Minneapolis Public Schools as a school social worker, where he has been employed for over 30 years. So we're glad you're here as a part-time musician, but it's a fabulous voice. So welcome to Unity. And he's going to lead us in an opening song.
Sure. I have a Peter, Paul, and Mary tune called Weave Me the Sunshine, written by Peter Yarrow, and it's kind of a sing-along or a small ensemble and a series of solos, as it might be. So wherever you are, feel free to join in this one. I don't know if it's going to be up on the screen or not, but maybe some of you know it. I don't know. sunshine out of the falling rain. Weave me the hope of a new tomorrow and fill my cup again. Weave me the sunshine out of the falling rain. Weave me the hope of a new tomorrow and fill my cup again. They say that the tree of loving shine on me again. Grows on the banks of the river of suffering, shine on me again. Weave me the sunshine out of the fallen rain. Weave me the hope of a new tomorrow and fill my cup again. If only I could heal your sorrow, shine on me again. I'd help you find your new tomorrow, shine on me again. Weave me the sunshine out of the fallen rain. Weave me the hope of a new tomorrow and fill my cup again. I've seen the steel and the concrete crumble, shine on me again. The proud and the mighty all have stumbled, shine on me again. Weave me the sunshine out of the fallen rain. Weave me the hope of a new tomorrow and fill my cup again. Only you can find that mountain, shine on me again. If you want to drink from that golden fountain, shine on me again. Weave me the sunshine out of the fallen rain. Weave me the hope of a new tomorrow and fill my cup again. Weave me the sunshine out of the fallen rain. Weave me the hope of a new tomorrow and fill my cup again.
Thank you, Braden, for that wonderful song. I got to sing along. I hope all of you did too. Good morning to everyone. I'm Wendy Erickson, your worship assistant today, and this is the time that we greet one another. So we've got two different locations going on here for sure. So please take a minute and wave to each other, and if you are in the center, wave to each other in the sanctuary. We got some people here, so waving to all of you. I'm waving to all of you back here.
Wave at the camera. The camera.
Oh, yeah. I forget. You're there, I'm sorry. Now, if you're new to joining Unity today, we'd like to ask you to raise your hand and wave, as we'd like to welcome you especially. We're so grateful you're here. We've got, somebody had a hand up. Was that you, Chris? Okay, all right. Okay, well, we're welcome to everyone here. I know we have some folks from another state. Can you wave? Oh, I can look here. Thank you. All right. So for those of you new to Zoom, there's a button evidently on the top right of your laptop that says Screen View. You can choose Speaker View or Gallery View. One allows you to see whoever's talking. That would be me right now. And the Gallery View shows everyone to you. It's your choice, whichever you prefer. And during parts of our service, we will see each other this way, and other times there's going to be some PowerPoint slides. So again, great to have you here. And at this time in our service, we are going to be taking a moment for prayer requests. Rather than say them aloud and share them with all to hear, we invite you to speak a name or your request silently, and if you're by yourself, or aloud in the privacy of your home. Please say your request. We give thanks in advance for these prayers, and we say thank you, God. So it is. Amen. Let us become centered and still as I read the daily word for Sunday, March 27th, 2022. It is divine order. Divine order supports my life. Divine order is one of the great truths of life. It provides a foundation for all growth and a blueprint for all manifestation. Feeling stuck or bewildered is a sign that I am out of step with divine order. I pause, and with compassion for myself, I release thoughts of worry, impatience, and doubt. I remind myself of times when I wondered whether a hoped-for result would ever happen, only to realize in hindsight that foundational aspects had to be in place first. Remembering this helps me to be patient and trusting now. So I affirm, I cooperate with divine order. It is established in my life now. I listen with mind and heart, trusting that I will discern my path one step at a time. From Proverbs chapter 3, verse 5, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own insight. Today's daily word for Sunday, March 27th, is divine order. And next, we will have music for our meditation.
So I invite you now to sit back and close your eyes and begin to relax for meditation. Just take several deep breaths, feeling that wave of relaxation move all the way down your body. Saying to yourself, I am completely and totally relaxed. We are now in the presence of pure being, immersed in the Holy Spirit of life, love, and wisdom. In unity, we teach that Jesus was the historical man, and Christ is the consciousness that he attained, and that we can also attain. Some of us prefer to think of the Christ or the pattern of wholeness that we are, the divine presence within. Some of us may find comfort from thinking of the man Jesus in his divine state. For a moment, let us invoke that image as a model for each of us, as a presence of light, love, and compassion. In a cloudless, bright sky in front of you, Call forth that representation of Jesus, the Christ, that has most moved you and with whom you feel most deeply connected. If for some reason you cannot imagine Jesus as an enlightened, radiant being, just imagine him as a blazing sun or brilliant white light. And just call him forth by speaking his name silently within, Jesus or Jesus Christ or Christ consciousness, whatever moves you. And open your heart now to the Christ's presence or the light shining before you. Keep nothing back. The presence of pure love before you wants nothing but your healing and your flowering in every dimension. Know that this divine presence is listening to you with total attention and compassion, and never for a moment judging you. Call now to Christ, to the divine, from the depths of whatever you're going through in your life. Just say exactly what you're feeling and what you need as simply as possible. Just silently speak your heart to this loving presence. And imagine now the image of Christ that you've chosen begins to emit a stream of radiant white light. This light is the divine light, the power of divine love. It has absolute effectiveness in all situations and can heal and transform because it streams directly from the divine heart. Know this with profound faith as you pray to the light to enter you and wash you free of all difficulties, all concerns, any illnesses of soul or body. Imagine that in immediate response to your prayer, that white light streaming from the Christ or divine presence enters you through the top of your head and pours in pulsing, warm, blissful waves down the full length of your body. Let the divine light and love enter you totally and wash you fresh and clean with its power of purification and healing. Imagine you float up quietly to where the figure of the Christ or the light is standing or present in the sky, and that you embrace him or it. Whether you imagine the spiritual being or simply light, rest against the divine heart. And imagine yourself totally dissolved in that love and peace. And rest in that peace for a few moments in the silence. Now, as you return to ordinary consciousness, give thanks to this divine presence of the Christ for the healing power you have received. Give thanks for the peace, the calm, the love. We dedicate ourselves to the awakening of love on the earth. May we be instruments of divine love and peace. Thank you, God, and so it is. Amen.
May I know the peace of God. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I know the peace of God. May my body know the strength and calm to carry me lightly on my way. And may my mind find a still and empty place that allows my soul to stay within. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I know the peace of God. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I know the peace of God. And may my lover know the fire of her dream and the gentle touch of grace. And may our daughters and our sons be known to God, and may they recognize God's face within. May they be filled with loving kindness, and may they know the peace of God. May they be filled with loving kindness. May they know the peace of God. All my relations, mitake o son, may they hear us when we call. And all creation, fin and feather, leaf and skin, as the circle closes all within. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we know the peace of God. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we know the peace of God.
What a beautiful song. Perfect song for the theme today. Well, today is week 2 of a 4-week series on the wisdom of Jesus as we move toward Easter. And today is called Jesus is Healer. There's a story of a grandma who hadn't seen her little grandson for a while, and so she didn't know if he knew all his colors, and she decided to test him. So she'd point to an object and ask what color it was, and he'd respond. This went on for a bit, and finally he looked at her very seriously, and he said, "Grandma, I think you really need to work this out for yourself." You know, sometimes we underestimate ourselves and underestimate others. Jean Houston, anthropologist, tells of a time she was traveling in Aboriginal cultures, and she told her guide she needed to get a message to the airport, which was many miles away, in order to charter a small plane. And the guide said, "Oh, no problem, we can help you with that." And she said, "How's that possible? There's no telephones, there's no radio, there's no way to communicate with the airport so many miles away." And he said, "It will be all right." And he walked up to a certain tree and conveyed her message. And finally, when they arrived at the airport, hours later, many miles away, the little plane was indeed there. And she went up to the pilot and said, "What happened?" And he said, "Oh, we got the tree message." So, you know, she said sometimes not only do we underestimate, but we also don't necessarily always believe in the possibility of miracles, or to our usual way of thinking, that incident is either thought of as impossible or a sort of miracle. Anthropologists, she said, are filled with stories about alternative laws of living and working in the world, though most of them are careful not to publish those stories in scientific journals. Exploring the nature of the creative process helps us to illuminate the nature of miracles. There's a common element between the study of people in high creative states and those in deep prayer and meditation. On a physiological level, there occurs an amazing degree of resonance, different brain waves singing the same song, as it were. Thus, the building blocks of reality, the appropriate people, ideas, books, associations, opportunities, begin to organize around the creative intention. When creativity is further engaged by faith, then the unimagined becomes possible. Then we have the dramatic healings and the nature miracles that Jesus was famous for. And according to him, each one of us has power to perform miracles. During his lifetime, Jesus was known primarily as a healer and an exorcist. People flocked to him, drawn by his wonder-working reputation, as the Gospels report again and again. His fame spread and great crowds followed him. Almost nobody believes that the preserved stories of Jesus are accurate in all details, but few scholars would deny that there were cures that actually occurred in Jesus' presence and were understood by the patients, the observers, and Jesus himself as miracles performed by him or through him. Such cures made him famous. You know, to understand their importance, though, we need to remember ancient Palestine had absolutely no hospitals or insane asylums. The sick and the mentally ill had to be cared for by their families in their homes. And the burden for caring for them was often very severe, and sometimes, especially in cases of violent insanity, more than the family could bear. The afflicted were turned out of doors to wander the streets. So lingering and debilitating diseases were common, and the victims of these too had to be cared for at home. Accordingly, many people eagerly sought cures. Doctors were inefficient, rare, and expensive. So when a healer appeared, a person who could perform miraculous cures and who did so for nothing, he was sure to be mobbed. With each cure, the reputation of his powers, the expectations of the crowd, and the legends and rumors about him would grow. Marcus Borg, author and scholar, said Jesus was a spirit person, one of those persons in human history to whom the spirit was an experiential reality. Spirit persons become mediators of the sacred. Sometimes they speak the word or will of God. Sometimes they mediate the power of God in the form of healings or exorcisms. Sometimes they function as game finders or rainmakers in hunting and gathering in early agricultural societies. Sometimes they become charismatic warriors or military leaders. What they all have in common is that they become funnels or conduits for the power and wisdom of God to enter this world. They are delegates of the tribe to another layer of reality, mediators who connect their communities to the Spirit. So Jesus was a remarkable healer. More healing stories are told about him than anybody else in the Jewish tradition. Not all mystics become healers, but he did. He attracted a following, including people who left their previous lives behind. There must have been something amazingly compelling about him. He also attracted enemies, especially among the rich and powerful. And finally, what's amazing to think about is he was young. His life was short and very brief. He lived only into his early 30s. And his public activity lasted perhaps as little as a year, according to the Synoptic Gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, or maybe as much as 3 or 4 years, according to the Gospel of John. So that's amazing when you think about it. And the founders of the world's other major religious traditions lived very long lives and were active for decades. It's exceptional so much came from such a brief life. He must have been a remarkable person. No wonder his followers are said to have exclaimed, "What manner of man is this?" So today we all still want healing, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual. And the search for Jesus continues. You know, there was a drunk who stumbled into a baptismal ceremony happening down by the river. And he went on walking right into the river, went up next to the preacher, stood there, and the preacher became aware of him and said, "Man, do you want to be saved?" And the drunk said, "Yes, Reverend." And so the preacher dunked him into the river, pulled him back up, and he said, "Okay, have you found Jesus?" And the drunk goes, "No, I have not, Reverend." And so he dunks him in again, pulls him up, says, "Have you found Jesus now, brother?" "No, I have not, Reverend." So he dunks him in one more time, holds him under 30 seconds or more, finally pulls him up and says, in a very frustrated voice, "All right, man, have you found Jesus?" And the drunk goes, he wipes his eyes and goes, "No, are you sure this is where he fell in?" So Jesus often emphasized the power of faith to heal. Mark 5:24 reads, "A great crowd followed him, and thronged about him. And there was a woman who had a flow of blood for 12 years, and who had suffered much under many physicians, and had spent all that she had, and was no better, but rather grew worse. She had heard the reports about Jesus, and came up behind him in the crowd, and touched his garment. For he said, she said, if I touch even his garment, I shall be made well. And immediately the hemorrhage ceased. And she felt in her body that she was healed of her disease. And Jesus, perceiving in himself that power had gone forth from him, immediately turned about in the crowd and said, who touched my garments? And his disciples said to him, you see the crowd pressing around you, and yet you say, who touched me? And he looked around to see who had done it. But the woman, knowing what had been done to her, came in fear and trembling, and fell down before him, and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your disease. She believed that if she simply touched his garment, she would be made well. This was the power of her faith. And touching the garment caused power to flow from him, even though he did not see her and did not consciously send that power. You know, activated faith releases a vibration that is endowed with a fantastic attracting power. She touched his garment and attracted the power, and it flowed through her, healing her. So we can ask ourselves, how can we touch his garment? We can think of this as a metaphor for his presence or his consciousness. In unity, we distinguish between Jesus the man and Christ the consciousness he attained. God is everywhere present, and Christ is the divine idea or pattern in all of creation. When we reach out in faith to this presence and power, we touch his garment. Christ's consciousness and the power flows through us. So Jesus placed special emphasis upon persistence in faith, teaching and demonstrating that success in healing or anything else comes to those who do not give up. Faith works through patience. This woman had searched for 12 years and still had faith. She never gave up. There's a true story of another woman who never gave up. She said, I fell down a flight of stairs, and I injured myself so badly that my lower spinal column experienced constant stress and pain. She said, I went to many chiropractors and had many treatments over the years, but every morning getting out of bed was a slow process. I was totally stiff. She said, but nevertheless, at 6:30 every morning, I got up to meditate and fix breakfast after laboriously climbing out of bed. And this was my pattern for 7 years. And she said, one night, my husband decided to stay up late and watch TV. And so I went to bed early. And as I did, I felt this presence very close beside me on my left side. And I heard a male voice say, this night, sleep on your stomach, Alice. And I wanted to protest that I never sleep on my stomach, and I can't, but I found myself obeying. And so just before waking in the morning, I became aware of hands massaging, manipulating, and pressing on my lower spine. And I slid out of bed that morning as though there had never been an injury. And for 3 days, I was in a state of prayerful reflection, of awe and reverence, just consumed with wonder. And then on the third night, I went to bed early again, she said. And as I closed my bedroom door, the wall in front of me disappeared. And what had been a very large window and tall furniture was now a brilliant panel of light. And in the center of it was a figure in full height with arms outstretched, palms up. And the figure then showed me how my back was healed. It was androgynous. I call him he, but it was androgynous because he was so luminous, I could not make out features. And he wore a single white garment. And I was in a state of grace for a long time after. And even to this day, 30 years later, she said, the event is still etched vividly in my mind. So what a powerful experience of healing. And she was asked later, if people asked her if she thought it was Jesus. And she said, I don't know. I'm certain it was a Christ-like figure, and I'm content with that. So she persisted in her daily prayer and meditation, yet sometimes healing seems to come even in spite of us. Unexplained grace activates our faith. Faith or belief works positively or negatively. Unity minister and author Catherine Ponder said, sick folks have faith, plenty of it, but sometimes in the wrong thing. Your attention is your faith. Whatever gets your attention gets your faith. Whatever you give your attention to, you have faith in. Whatever you're deeply convinced about, you have faith in. Whatever you expect and prepare for, you have faith in. I read an interesting definition of faith by Johnny Hart in the BC comic strip. He said, faith is blowing a dog whistle while hanging off a cliff and knowing that Lassie will hear it. And that's really what deep faith is like. Jesus said, have faith in God. Truly I say to you, whoever says to this mountain, be taken up and cast into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes what he says will come to pass, it will be done for him. Therefore I tell you, whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. And when we doubt, we can ask, as Thomas the doubting apostle did, help thou my unbelief. Remove my doubt. Restore my faith. There's an American proverb, it does not work to leap a 20-foot chasm in 2 10-foot jumps. We have to take a huge leap. So activating our faith means taking that leap. The Christ, the garment of the Christ, the consciousness of the Christ is on the other side, or at least out there above the chasm. Imagine yourself leaping into the arms, the divine arms, the garment, the consciousness of the divine. Jesus named some very specific conditions that are prerequisites to the occurrence of miracles. He said, have faith and doubt not. Have faith and doubt not. And that is a faith so focused that nagging doubts of disbelief are suspended, and your whole person is synchronized with the creative realm of possibility. He said, all things whatsoever you ask in prayer, believe that you shall receive. So it's through prayer we make our connection with the divine, so miracles become possible. And he said, if you ask anything in my name, I will do it. And his name is I am. I am is always a state of fulfillment. How are we using our I am? Are we affirming I am sick, I am broke, I'm unhappy, are we affirming I am healthy and whole, prosperous, filled with faith? He said, if two of you shall agree on earth in anything that you shall ask, it shall be done for you of my Father which is in heaven. That is, if two of us are in loving resonance, then our energy is amplified, extended throughout earth and heaven, and our mutual creative intention is assured. We then become co-creators with God. Jean Houston also said, as I have studied the nature of miracles that Jesus performed, I have observed a remarkable phenomenology in the nature and practice of his healing. First, he rapidly induced a surprised or altered state of consciousness. Second, he informed the sick person of his or her release from psychological defilement, or what we would call old beliefs. Third, he usually uttered an authoritative word of command that produced a shock. And fourth, he frequently touched the sick one in order to reinforce and direct his verbal command, or he healed many long distance through surrogates. Jesus also experienced a shift in his own consciousness and was in a state of oneness and empathy with the other person. Then he directed the chi energy, or the heightened field energy, and amplified the fields within and about the person with the power of love. Now, we know that Jesus used spiritual practices, including fasting and prayer. We're told he prayed for hours at a time, sometimes all night long. But most important of all, Jesus was in love with God, shown in part in the intimate way in which he addressed God as Abba, which in Aramaic is the equivalent of Papa. His tradition typically used much more formal terms of address. He also used female imagery to describe God, referring to Sophia as the feminine name for divine wisdom. And he saw God as personal, immanent, and totally loving and nurturing. We can tell from the writings he was completely awestruck by the divine, fully in love, and trusting of God's will for absolute good, and a living, loving example of compassion in the world. You know, one of my experiences with Jesus occurred when I was 6 months pregnant. I may have told the story before, but I was diagnosed with appendicitis, and I was separated from my husband and alone and in despair. And I had this diagnosis. It wasn't acute. It was low grade, you could say. And they wanted me in the hospital, and I refused for a few days anyway. I wanted to see what I could do on my own. And I knew I was taking a risk. This was my first baby. And I was a supernaturalist at the point, total vegetarian, didn't put anything, any drugs, anything in my body, not even an aspirin. So I didn't want anesthesia, but I knew I could end up that way. So, for several days, I just prayed just constantly. And I read all of the red letters in the New Testament, said to be the words of Jesus. And I stayed up late one night reading Edgar Casey's story of Jesus until I felt like I was completely immersed in his consciousness. And then I went to bed and had a vision. And I say it was a vision because I was a little more awake than asleep, and because it was more real than a dream. And what happened is I was in a great hall, and people were there waiting for Jesus to show up. And I heard a voice say, "Do not be deceived, you will know him by his eyes." And a man walked through the door, and all the people ran up, and I knew it wasn't him, and they went off with him. And then when I was alone, he came, and he embraced me. And all I can say, I have never felt so held and so loved in my entire life. And in the morning, the appendicitis was gone, never to return. So it was a very profound experience I've never forgotten. Oh, and I have one more quick story. I got a call last night from a longtime dear friend of mine in another state. She's been battling cancer, a female type of cancer that went beyond her female organs, so things weren't looking good. But she spent 6 months having chemo and radiation. And she called me because she went Friday to see her doctor. And he came into the room and he said to her, how are you going to celebrate tonight? And she had the thought, is it my birthday? And he said, you're cancer-free. You can go celebrate tonight. So it was an amazing moment. And she was just so elated and so filled with gratitude. And then she went to her car, got in her car, sat down, and immediately started to sob. Just all that emotion just came forth. And then when she was finally settled down, she turned on her car and the radio came on, and it was the Bee Gees singing Staying Alive. It was a great story, great moment. What a blessing. So, the truth is prayer works, and healing miracles are always possible. So in closing, I invite you to think about and meditate on Jesus as healer as we approach Easter. Think of both the man and the consciousness that he expressed, which is the true healer. And call upon that Christ consciousness for your own healing in whatever form you desire it. If we choose to live our lives at the level of the Christ consciousness that Jesus attained, then we too must stand in a state of wonder and awe before the universe, a state of love and oneness with God and one another. And it's from that place that we are healed and that we become the healers that we are. We're not healed by fighting the illness or the problem as much as we are by aligning ourselves with the divine. And remember, Jesus reminded us, you can do what I do and even greater things. God's healing power moves in and through all of us right now. We have only to call it forth. Thank you. God bless you.
Prodigal son, he'd been away a while. He was working his way back home now, over many a ragged mile. When he finally crossed that river, and his father saw him near, there was a joyful sound for all the world to hear. So I listened to what the good book said, and it made good sense to me. Talking about reaping what you're sowing, and people trying to be free. Now we've got new names and faces this time around. Gospel changes, Lord, still going down. Jesus, he did not doubt his gifts, though he knew that he had not long to live. He took care of the business of teaching us how to fly, and then he bowed his head and laid down to die. So I listened to what the good book said, and it made good sense to me. Talking about reaping what you're sowing, and people people trying to be free, and now we've got new names and faces. This time around, gospel changes, Lord, still going down. Jerusalem, I see you standing high, but if you lose your salvation, there'll be no tears left to cry. Some men worship the golden calf, while others are bought and sold. And if we live like that, brother, we pay the toll. So I listened to what the good book said, and it made good sense to me. Talking about reaping what you're sowing, and people trying to be free. And now we've got new names and faces. This time around, gospel changes, Lord, still going down. Gospel changes, Lord, still going down.
Thank you so much, Braden, for sharing your gifts. That was lovely. Now is the time in our service when we bless our offerings. Since we can't collect them live, we invite you to go to our website, which is unitynorthmn.org, and find the donation button on the homepage, and you can give your offering there. You can, if you prefer to mail a check, that's me, you can send it to our address, which is also at our website. And today, for those of you that are in the congregation, we do have the basket in the back for you to leave your offering. Let us speak our offering blessing. Join me. Divine love flowing through me now blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, and I am grateful. Again, thank you, Braden, for the music. All right, we have our community news. Unity North is having their visioning evenings. They're going to be facilitated by Reverend Kathy. There's 2 evenings. The first one is March 29th. That's this coming Tuesday. And the next one is April 19th, which is also a Tuesday. They're from 6:30 to 8:30, both of them. That's Central Daylight Time. And we invite you to join Reverend Kathy and our Board of Trustees as we engage in 2 evenings of a powerful visioning process for our spiritual center. All are welcome. We ask that you go to the website and register in advance so that you can receive the handouts. Okay, so that's pretty key.
And the link, too. And the link, too. They'll get the link, too.
Okay, yep. Yes, the link to the, thank you. So we do have a survey about a vaccine requirement that we have sent out. we ask that you go to the unitynorthmn.org vaccine survey, share your opinion about lifting the vaccine requirement. This was also distributed via email for a number of people on Monday. We want you to complete your survey by the afternoon of Sunday, April 3rd. Family Promise Hosting Week is April 3rd through April 9th. To volunteer to help with the Family Promise Hosting Week, please contact Kathleen Bailey. Her number is on our slide here. You can also reach her at outreach@unitynorthmn.org. And please contact her before purchasing any items. It's pretty critical. There are some very specific things that they do want. So we have a new class that's coming up, Sacred Abundance, Manifesting Your Best Life, with Reverend Kathy and Wanda, our board president. We'll be doing this from Wednesday, April 27th. You're getting advance notice through June 1st. It's 6 weeks, 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. It'll be a Zoom class. We are inviting you to experience a simple but exciting distillation of wisdom from some of the world's great prosperity teachers. There's going to be video and audio clips are being included during some of the classes. Also an opportunity to work together with classmates to help each other manifest your dreams and goals. Please register. And that'll be at our website at /sacredabundance. We continue our Monday evening chat with Gina Booth. That's at 7 p.m. And that's an ongoing chat. You can join the chat at Unity North MN Monday chat. It's right there. The men's group, again, the men's group meets the second Thursday in person and the fourth Thursday on Zoom. So the next meeting is on April 4th in person. They just had their fourth meeting. So, and you can contact Jim Cox. Our prayer chaplain today is Susan Marie Lawler. Her number is 612-850-2129. 612-850-2129. And now we have the prayer for protection.
I just first want to say thank you. Thanks to Chris today. Thank you to Wendy. And thank you to Braden. You did great. Songs were perfect. Wonderful having you here. All right, let's join together in our prayer for protection. Together. The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And now let's join in our peace song. Feel free to stand in place. And now feel free to join us for social time. I'd like to give our virtual people a few minutes to say things so that we can still hear them. So it's, can I see all the people? Let's see. There you are. So does anybody have anything to share? Charlotte.
The music was fantastic. Thank you.
All right. He'll be back.
Hey.